myself. Soul gets filled with God Himself. Move in the room with the Lord. Whoa, move in the room with the
So, Randy, what did you guys...
Oh, move in the room with the Lord. Oh, move in the room with the Lord. We're going to have a real good time on April the 19th, so please join us as the Silverleaf Singers come in and live they'll be singing and we'll have some conversations. What we're going to do, though, is get back to Walter Smith, who left us with, and he just kicked it in for me when he said, the greatness of me. Because that's an important thing to find out and to know, is that we are all great people. There are no big I's, no little U's. There's just me and you doing the greatness of our spirits and hopefully finding a way to be in harmony and to share. Walter, let's go back to your coming out of this addiction piece and finding a way to get to the greatness of you. Mm-hmm. And I want to hear how that also takes you into the Buddhist piece and then the work that you're doing in the community to bring other people through that journey.
So as I said, when I began to learn that, I began to go on another path as I started working with people and giving needles. So it made me look at myself differently. I realized that, I was a fortunate individual because I was selfish and I didn't like to wait. So I always had works. And so that protected me from Hep C and HIV. So I was grateful because many of the people I grew up with, in fact, were infected with the HIV virus. And ultimately, in the beginning, it was classified as a death sentence. And that majorly affected me. So when I came back and had an opportunity to really give out needles, it was conflicting, but it was very spiritual because it made me realize that what was significant was not the fact that these people did any of these things, but that they were human beings and that they were afflicted by whatever a societal issue to me, and that there was no need for them to die from the HIV virus or Hep C.
Let me hear societal issue. What are you implying?
Well, I'm implying this, that, for most people in our society today, I think that the 12-step program, with all its intention, it did help many people, but the impact it has on society is negative, because now we look at an addict, as a diseased individual, and we put, attach a stigma that says that once you're an addict, you're always an addict. And so that all means that all you can do is, if you're an addict, you can be a clean addict or you could be a dirty addict. And so somehow or another, that got lost in the shuffle, because that is so far from what this addiction is about.
And with that, let me ask you this. I thought that there was something that said, medical kind of official clearance, that addiction was a disease, and that's a part of what you should do in a job situation or whatever, when you realize that you're caught in those grips, is to own it and to take it to human resources, and then they were going to...
Well, what they say that chemical dependency, not addiction. Okay, it's very important. The American Medical Association and the World Health Organization defines chemical dependency as a primary, progressive, chronic, oftentimes fatal, treatable illness.
Keyword, treatable.
That's right.
And so with the treatable piece, the hope in being treatable is that they are weaned off, or you use 12 steps, you use some social kind of network, support network to get you through that?
Well, I think in the beginning, it was, what happened, that when a person said he was an addict, what most people are alcoholic, for an example. When a person said he was an alcoholic, in reality, that's why it was called Alcoholics Anonymous, because when he said he was an alcoholic, he was actually admitting and getting medicine at the same time. In other words, when you say I'm an alcoholic, what you really was saying, I'm not a skid row bum, I'm not a drunk, I'm not a derelict. See, when you're getting help, you're an alcoholic. in that society, when you weren't, you were a bum, you were drunk, you were skid row, you were possessed by the devil, and all the other indignant things that society held about people who were, unable to control their drinking.
So I'm glad you're kind of unpacking that in terms of the degrees of how we judge a person based on whether they get help or whether that they're not getting help. And one of the wonderful things about what we've been talking about is that at the end of the day, there's hope. It's called finding a way to own your insanity, to own it, and to realize that it's not necessarily being productive and that you need to get somewhere else and then to go out for help. So help me with that. When you're going now, being the clinician and working with addicts, people who are in need, do you ever recommend the Buddhist way of helping people to move through it? Not that you would, sort of beat people over the head, but to say, well, here's one way that I've gotten through.
Well, I use my life experience, and I'm a Buddhist, so I talk and I share that because they say it's this ease of the mind and the body and the spirit. So I share that. I share my experiences especially with this Buddhism, because it's very new, and most people don't understand it, and that it's about. The thing that I realized through my Buddhist practice is that the reason why I practice Buddhism, because life was, messed up, period. So to me, I try to do my Buddhist practice the way I did my heroin use, not begrudgingly. I liked it that, you know what I'm saying? When I realized it was a practice and they're saying, hey, that you have this unknown potential in you and that, you have to release this potential. And so this is the reason why you chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, to release this potential. Ultimately, it wasn't about worshiping a God outside of me, and maybe people have issues with that, but what it brought me to do was worship the fact that I was a human being, and that in all the things that I realized in the planet, that I was the one that put the drug in me, and that I was the one that was stopped. So it wasn't the drug.
And the one thing that happens here, as you say that, is what is your relationship to the bigger picture, to the universe, and a part of that I like from the Buddhist piece is that there's a yin and a yang, there's you get what you give. I mean, there's a karma kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I like that. If you're thinking the right thoughts, you're doing the right things and thoughts, things come to you. So that's the one piece that I've always enjoyed about it, is creating and generating a certain kind of vibratory energy to move yourself through the goodness that life has to offer you. Again, do you find yourself recommending some of that to addicts or people that you may be helping to get to the next place in their lives?
Well, I talk and I share things like that with people, but I'm a clinician, you know what I'm saying? So I created a medicine called the 9 Aspects of the Awesome Self. And what I did was I took what I know. One of the things that I realized is that I had been used to operating off of belief because it's easier. But I knew that belief also causes problems because everybody can believe something different and it's okay when it's really not.
The 9 beliefs of the awesome
9 aspects
of the awesome. Right. And do it real quick for me. What is the first, second, third?
So the 9 aspects is, it starts off, you become a sexual, you are a sexual, physical, emotional, social, spiritual, intellectual, creative, financial, psychological.
Bring it back for me. The first one is sexual.
Sexual.
The second one is
physical.
Physical. The third one is
emotional.
Emotional. The fourth
social.
Social.
Spiritual. Creative. Intellectual. Financial. And psychological.
And once I'm kind of in tune with these 9 principles, that raises my awareness about...
Well, the first piece is really teaching people who they are. So, most people don't know who they are. They're either male, female, black, white. They don't really have a comprehensive sense of self. So what I did through my experience and what I knew, I broke the self down in 9 distinct categories to just simplify it. I mean, to me, the human being is much greater than that, but it was easy to bring it down so that every single human being on the planet couldn't dispute it. There's no one that could argue that they are consisted of those 9
And I'm going to
things.
come with this real quick. And so at the end of the day, again, one of my mentors brought this to me and it keeps coming up, is do you believe people who have sex with their same-sex kind of lovemaking, is that a biological, is it genetic, or do you learn that?
Well, I don't really know personally. I do know it's a personal choice and decision. Whatever you feel, however you think, you can feel and think anything. You don't have to act, but it's a personal choice that you do. You know what I'm saying? That's the way I don't know whether it's biological. I'm not into biology, but the fact of the matter is human beings are great. And so whatever they do, okay, as long as they're not hurting another human being, then, that's their decision, and they got to live with the consequences, the effects of their
of your actions. And you know what, Walter, you are just bringing it the way I like it brought. Because, again, on the couch, what we want to do is try to look at the differences that we are experiencing and understanding that you do you and I do me, and at the end of the day, I'm not going to hurt you and you're not going to hurt me. So with that, I want you all to go in a good way. Thank you for joining us here on the couch. And I'm going to get back to some more conversation with Walter about the 9 aspects of the awesome self. And so I like the financial piece is the one that kind of took me somewhere, because I have no clue about money. I should say I know how to get it and spend it, but how you take it and make it work. And so is that something that you teach in this awesome piece?
I teach that. I got an issue. I think that people find that money is more valuable than people. When I looked at myself, I realized that even though I knew it wasn't, that I did act, and my actions and everything was towards that.